Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you guys are doing good. Welcome to another LinkedIn Live by NICF. Today we are going to discuss about the most hyped topic and get the most confusing topic as well. And to discuss on that, we have a very amazing guest with us all the way from Canada, and he's an AI expert and he's also running an agri-tech community as well. That's like a wonderful community for all the agri-tech founders and investors as well. So please welcome Saad Rahman. How are you, Saad?
I'm fine, thank you so much, Abu Bakr. I don't know, you called me off right out the gate as an AI expert. I don't know if anybody is an AI expert these days. Maybe the more appropriate term could be an AI advocate. Yeah, so anyway, just wanted to put it there.
Yeah, true. Because AI is very confusing right now. So, like, let's just straight jump into the real question. Is that now a lot of people talk about a lot of companies are forcing their employees to implement AI into their services. But I wanted to ask you: are these companies really implementing AI into their systems, or are they just talking about it?
Yeah, that's a very good question to start off with. But before we get into that, Abu Bakr, I do want to take an opportunity for thanking you and NICF for having me on the platform. It was actually a similar platform called Thai Islamabad, on which I actually got involved in this whole agri-tech business 6 years back. Me and my co-founder, we started a company, a startup, and then we got enrolled into a Thai program. It ties in with the same question that you were asking me earlier on, and that's why there was an agri-tech business program, and there was a cohort in which we were aligned, and then that kind of led us into what and we can come back to this, but I just wanted to thank the managing committee for NICF and Thai Islamabad for doing that. Regarding the question, companies jumping directly into AI, there's always a bandwagon that's established. Even when the internet was coming around, 90s, everybody wanted to be start utilizing it in their businesses and everything. But there is the truth to some part, and then there is the hype part, and then the challenge becomes when we go beyond the truth and start delving into the hype part, and that is where a lot of bubbles get created. And that's what happened in the internet .com bubble, that everybody thought that, what, this was going to solve. The internet is still here. It's 2026. The internet's still here. It's not as if it's gone away, but it's probably restructured itself in a slightly different way. So AI hype is good sometimes. I think even for progression, hype is necessary to create, but then you have to have a real realization where you need to stop now and curb yourself and then adjust accordingly. Um, I'll leave that question there for the moment, and then we'll talk more about this a bit later.
Perfect. So now, as you were saying that you have been connected with Thais now, then basically you came to make an agri-tech community. So I have seen that you are very closely working with agri-tech startups, and at NICF we also work closely with startups in agri-tech, textile tech, and emerging tech. Do you think startups in emerging markets like Pakistan have an advantage in AI adoption because they are less burdened by the legacy systems?
No, for sure. Anybody who's starting off right now definitely has a bigger advantage. There's saying something that has an advantage. My father always used to say that there's an exchange of problems with different things. You go and opt for one thing, there's a certain set of problems, there's a certain advantage, there's a certain disadvantage on some things. So the same
Yeah.
way, there are surely advantages for a startup which does not have a lot of legacy systems and a lot of burdens to be able to leverage this, but then they may not have a lot of those processes and a lot of those data clearly identified that they need in order to scale at that AI level as well, which is probably something more organized and regularized in a bigger startup, or in a bigger firm which has been there for the last 15, 20 years, which you would be a bit surprised though that they still have those challenges in having their processes aligned and having their data aligned as well. So yeah, the advantage is definitely there, but I will come to this topic a bit later on as well. But let me touch on it a little bit right now. Right now, the issue is not about creating new products, or like in the past, it took, like, we were building out an app. We used to have an app, Kisan Car. It took us, I think, about 1.5 year to build that app out, and even then, it had some issues when we launched it on Apple Store and Google Store. Issue right now is not of building; it is about distribution. What do we mean distribution and adoption? So now you can actually churn out an app in 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days max, wipe code it out, finish it, and then how are you going to distribute that? That's one of the bigger challenges that companies or startups are actually going to have. And in this philosophy of all of these multiple things coming at you, how are you going to make a distinction? So I feel, and if you see the general trend in the industry, you might just be spending 20 to 30% of the time building that app and 70% of the time validating and distributing and having the adoption take place, because adoption can be very fast as well, and it can people can very quickly switch over to the next shiny object very quickly. How are you going to retain them? That's going to be a bigger challenge. Um, yeah.
That's so true. And even like at startups and most of the companies we have seen, like they are very tilted about using AI tools like Copilot and different automation tools as well. But they still struggle with basically getting the maximum out of that, and their operational costs high so much due to these automations, right? So I wanted to ask you how to basically cope up with that mechanism when you can get maximum out of output out of the AI adoption.
Well, getting maximum out of the AI adoption is a relative question, right, Abu Bakr? It depends on what is it that you are targeting to get out of it in the first place. Like, what is your intent that you're trying to accomplish? Let me give you an example over here. We recently did a AI hackathon for a company. It's a major fintech company based out of Karachi. It's called Avanza, and we have it's almost been like 1.5 2 months up till now that that whole AI hackathon is actually going on, and there was some pre-steps to be done. And the reason why I give you this example, there's a reason, because it ties it in with your question as well. But that AI hackathon could not have happened inside, and there were certain objectives for having that AI hackathon. But that AI hackathon would have not have happened if the CEO of the company would not have had the vision that, we need to do this, or we are going to make progress out of this. But in terms of expectations, he knew exactly what he was looking for. He was looking to make sure that the employees and the organization was tilted in the right direction in using AI. So not everybody can be at the most extreme level of AI, right? You don't become an AI builder. You could be AI aware, you could be AI capable, you could be an AI builder. So he set that expectation that we'll start using AI, but not that everybody will be at that same expectation of building a complete app out. So to your question, why expectations don't meet, I think it's a realistic expectation that needs to be set right out of the gate by the organization, by senior leadership, that what are we going to do out of this. The other thing is that, just to quote Avanza's example again, the CEO put together a team of people, 3 or 4 close people who led the whole AI lab concept. And then they were the ones who were driving the whole innovation in the company. And then they expanded into more other people who started becoming a part of that initiative. And with the AI hackathon happening, that whole talent bubbled up. And the also important thing was that the company was clear on what problems they wanted to have them solved. So people who came to those hackathons knew exactly the problems that were identified within the company to have been solved. So I think there was a good takeaway from them at the end of the day, because they were actually able to solve certain problems which were being faced by the company. That is not normally the case within a lot of companies. They don't even know what their own processes are. They don't even know where their data resides, which forms do they reside. All of those challenges are those fundamental things which we have always been talking in AI, in IT for the longest of time, since this whole computer systems have started, that they are the things that need to be resolved regardless. Like if you implement AI, if you implement any, maybe today is AI, maybe tomorrow could be some other basic other thing, but you need to know what you do, how you do it, and what is the data that you utilize in the process. If you don't have these things, three things streamlined, there's no use of doing anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Can you give any of like the practical steps for especially for the early stage founders?
For early stage founders, I think the early stage, when you say early stage founders and solving a problem using AI, like is that how you were positioning?
So, like I'm talking about in general, for example, if it's whether it's an agri-tech, it's in food tech, or even if it's a SaaS-based product. But like most of the early stage journeys are kind of
Okay,
look like.
let me answer that in a very generic way. We start with a very generic answer, and then you can help me narrow it down into a very specific thing as you like. One of the most common problems, and not just with startup, but actually with most startup founders, is the fact that uh, we start building a solution. We need to look at a problem first, and not just any random problem that you pick up and start working on it. It should be enough that you can generate enough revenue by solving that problem for a number of people, right? So the problem should be big enough, it should be relevant enough, and only then you should start building anything against that. AI just enhances or helps you fast track that solution, but you need to start off with finding the actual problem and validating that people actually have that as a problem. I've seen a lot of time products being built and then founders trying to find a user or somebody to sell it to. You need to do the validation up front, and even with, and so maybe the part where AI can be leveraged in a very interesting way in these current times is the fact that it helps you build prototypes much faster. You know, like how Figma, we used to do Figma, right? So you could build a prototype, you could do, like, you could walk somebody through that. So Figma actually fast tracked all of that. But with this, with AI now, with cloud work and with all the codecs, you can actually fast track that even way much more further. You can actually show an actual working model with databases connected to the backend, functionality showing up. All of that good stuff can happen. So you are better off showing that to a client, a potential client, getting it validated early on, and then solving it further. Don't waste too much of your time. I think I've pivoted slightly away from the question that you asked, but this is the but I'll let you further clarify the question for me.
Yeah, perfect. I guess I got most of your the answer basically like what are like the practical steps of it. Like stop overdoing and stop overthinking, like more focus on basically practically doing things, right? And even if when I was searching about your profile and I have seen some of your interviews as well, you often says that basically you often emphasize like it should be AI adoption should be more execution focused rather than just focusing on the trends, right?
Yep, and the thing is, Abubakar, just to reiterate what I just said a few minutes ago, the tool can be anything.
Yeah.
See, today, and like ChatGPT came along, Claude came along, and then Grok came along, and then Deep Mind came along. There's so many things that can be there, but they don't tell you. Well, at some point in time, I'm hoping it will actually also tell you the problem, like what problem you should be solving. But I
Yeah.
guess you're not there as of now. Uh, by the way, there's a very interesting website now which is able to rent humans. So there's certain things which AI cannot do. So I don't know if you've heard about it, but that it actually puts out a request that it wants to hire humans to do things which computers cannot, like taste ice cream or like do something or feel the weather or whatever. But going back on the more serious topic, I think it does make a lot of sense for startups to actually focus on the actual problems that are there, rather than trying to find an AI tool and then try. And I'll give some more specific examples with agriculture and something, but let's get into that later on.
Perfect, perfect. So going ahead, I wanted to ask you like what industries in Pakistan, especially like in the sector of agri-tech and manufacturing and textiles, do you believe most likely to experience a real AI transformation?
See, that AI transformation is already here. If you don't wish to adopt it, that's a separate question. But when the printing press came along, a lot of people did not adopt the printing press just because they thought it was satanical, and They just left it. So it's all upon every one of us if you want to adopt something or not. So with that caveat, having said that, let me answer the next part with a specific focus on agri-tech, for example. So I was looking through, because this is one of my, it's not actually my direct core work that I do, but it's one of my major interests. Actually, that's what they say. There's a 9 to 5 that you do, and then there's a 5 to 9 that you do. So this is probably more falls in my 5 to 9 kind of thing. So when there are farms right now, there are pilot examples at least right now where they have left a plant, monitored it, and then there were fertilizer dosers that were attached to that, and they let the plant grow by itself. So AI was automatically monitoring uh, the plant growth. It was feeding it the right nutrients based on how it was seeing the progress happening. I mean, like that's the level of world where we are going right now. I don't know if this is sounds a bit more Star Trek-ish or futuristic kind of thing that okay, we're not there as yet, and yes, we are not there as yet. But when the first computer came out, it was as big as probably the room that you are in right now. But eventually, it came down to the size of our computer, to our laptop, to our cell phone, with the same computing power. So things can happen. This is where things are happening. So we have to be really cognizant, and we have to make sure that we engage AI for its right purposes. To the other question, now a lot of AI. Let's talk about agri-tech startups because NICF has a lot of stuff happening with agri-tech startups in that space in textile and manufacturing. If you So your primary focus should not just be upon building the sensors, the best data, okay, the best production. There are multiple other factors that you have to also account for. And I don't think that there's a couple of Zarai Mandi is probably doing something on pricing and prediction modeling, and there's some of the other ones if I am aware of. But while we were in there was this Dubai Food Festival. I think we were there, and then there was a gentleman from Saudi Arabia. I think the company name is T57. They were building a model on which they could predict pricing for the future of a product because that's the biggest challenge of the farmer right now. You could have great production. You could have the best, like for example, the best weather. Everything was perfect, fine. But at the end of the harvest, you cannot determine what the price is going to be.
Yeah,
And
true.
even if everything was perfect in that highly non-deterministic line, at the end of the day, you would still be a loser. And that's normally not the case, right? There's normally like rains come along, and then there is the growth is not that good, or there's some kind of fungal attack or some of the other things. But I'm assuming that everything of those 4 or 5 things happen perfectly fine. You're still in a situation where the farmer is left poor. Can we not leverage AI in some way that we can build a model and take all these inputs and then try to identify for the farmer what is the right price for the product, what would be the right time to introduce it into the market, or if they should even be sowing this particular uh, crop in this season or not. That is where I think there's a lot of potential, and I don't personally see a lot of companies for because this is a hard problem to solve. There's a lot of inputs that need to be accounted for, and like going back to our earlier example, a lot of that depends on identifying the right data sources from where all the information will come in to build that prediction model. I actually did a when I was doing my MBA way back then in 2016, I believe we built out a prediction model. There was a economist case study we won it globally, where it was to determine if you had $100,000, would you spend it in would you buy Walmart or Amazon shares? So we built out a whole prediction model, and it's still there on the web somewhere. So I almost think to that effect there has to be some kind of a prediction model, and maybe some organizations are using it for their own personal use, but at an industry level or at a full industry or government level or in a country level, that is still not there. That would be one of the biggest things that through this platform, if I can inspire, send any of the founders who want to work in this area, I would be very glad to work with you closely on that. So that's the agri-tech part of it. Then there is the Textiles, of course, and textile and manufacturing. Within manufacturing, there's a startup that we work with right now. It's called Aero. It's based out of Edmonton. It's um, one of my older students from electrical engineering when I used to teach electrical engineering, and they have made autonomous robots that can actually move in a inside in a facility, in a warehouse facility, make own decisions, and get to do multiple other things that need to get done. So, but that's a little bit more expensive proposition than the one that I proposed earlier from an agri-tech for a startup in starting in Pakistan. I would rather have focused on a more software-based solution rather than a hardware, because hardware very quickly gets very expensive and very difficult to acquire as well at times. And you run into
Yeah.
all kind of challenges. We actually had to buy a sensor. We imported it from China. We got hit with so much import duty, and then anyway, that's another day, topic for another day. But yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Saad, for coming to this LinkedIn Live today. And personally, I learned a lot from this today. And I hope our audience also had some great insights from today's conversation. And on the last, I wanted to ask you a personal question. So, if you are 25 in this age, in this time, right? What's the first thing that you would have to?
I would travel a lot, and I'll tell you why. And so this interesting question that you bring it up. I was actually telling somebody yesterday. It was a LinkedIn post I saw from somebody, and he said, the moment that you graduate, the best graduation gift that you can give yourself is you should just travel for the next 4 months. Traveling will actually teach you so much more than what a university would not have told or would have not taught you in the 4 years that it taught you. So yes, Abu Bakr, uh, and the reason why I would have done that is because traveling opens up, gives you, it exposes you towards other people and how they're living, and you tend to come out of your little bubble that you have been in all your life, right? So, assuming I lived in a little bubble while I was growing up, but when I got to travel and see things, things became a little bit different. So that's the one thing. And the other advice I will give myself or would do if I was 25, I would just experiment things very quickly and don't get hung over things. Like just do something. If it does not work, do the next thing. Do it very quickly. Move on if you don't think, and try to find your ikigai. Now you brought me to a philosophical mode, Abu Bakr. Ikigai was a practice which can determine you what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. There's an intersection of all of those things which determines what is actually something that you want to get to. And while we are talking about all of these things, let me also mention one more thing. I have a framework called DCL, and it's very necessary and it's very nice if you can position your life on top of that. That's direction, capacity, and leverage. First thing for you is that you need to determine which direction you are going to go in. And it's the folks that I've seen. So I've been a teacher. I've had friends who've done really well in their lives as well. I've seen the students. I've seen their lifestyle and how they've kind of progressed in their lives. I think the ones that had a clear direction towards where they were heading, they were able to succeed in the conventional sense of the way. I don't want to put it like that. Then the next thing is your capacity. In the direction that you're heading, do you have the right capacity? Do you have the right tools? Do you have the right knowledge to go in that direction? Right. And then the last thing is your leverage. So the leverage is try to find relationships with other, build relationships with people, try to leverage the knowledge of others to fast track yourself, or maybe even use AI, for example, to leverage yourself. So this is the DCL framework. So yeah, try to find you. So if I was 25 years old, I would rather say just try to find my direction as quickly as possible. And sometimes you find your direction by doing something and finding out that okay, this is not something that I should be doing. I should be doing something else. And traveling, of course, like I said, is something which is really worthwhile. If you were to spend, like, in the LinkedIn post that I just shared with a few friends, it was like the person went on a travel for 4 months, but you could very well go on a travel for like 10 days or 15 days by yourself with one or two friends of you who have a security issue that okay, they might like, if you want to be careful about things. But that's what I would do. I don't know if that was the right answer for you that you were looking for a Woodpecker, but that's exactly what I would do if I was 25 or
Yeah,
about to
it's
graduate.
a perfect answer. Yeah,
Well,
it's
I
a
don't know if it's a
perfect.
perfect answer or not. A lot of people don't think I'm so perfect, but still.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Saad, for coming to this LinkedIn Live. And thank you so much, guys, for listening to this LinkedIn Live. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation and got some really good insights from today's LinkedIn Live. And stay tuned. See you in another LinkedIn Live. Allah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saad.